Things to refrain. Cultivating palm in shades. Palm tree is known to be an ideal sunshine lover. Gaining insufficient sunlight results in poor growth as well as delayed yielding. Also, you know that palm tree grows spaciously, spreading fronds around. Insufficient power of sunlight gives notably such a vertical growth of fronds upwards. The palm's front grows in such a way until it finds the direct sunlight would be the case. Hence, the only thing happens is it grows tall, not yield. Also affects the forming tree. Therefore, please remove unnecessary trees and shelters that obstruct its way to the growth. Even growing palms less closer than in recommended caps catches less sunlight. Recommended specs by Coconut Cultivation Board of Sri Lanka. 64 trees would be the max per acre. The gap between two palms needs to be 26 feet. Usually, it needs to maintain a space of 26 feet between two palms, leaving 13 feet per each, since an average coconut frond extends that long. Otherwise, coconut fronds grow beyond each, overlap, and net a shelter which returns the sun barrier against the growth and leads to poor growth, falling of bunches and fronds, and early fall of body nuts. Therefore, don't go for an over-cultivation with less space. Planting on borders, fences, or attachment to the high extension power lines. One of the most vital facts would be where to plant the seedlings. Please note, though it's a tiny tender bud, we need to qualify the supreme location as it grows high and vast after months and years. Otherwise, you may experience poor growth as well as discomfort in maintaining manure circle. Have you ever experienced the Ceylon Electricity Board trims or fully cut off fronds when overgrowth obstructs their power lines, and do you know how it affects worst to the palm's growth as well as to traffics, pedestrians and neighbors? So all you have to do is finding a location 13 feet off from boundaries and 35 feet off from power lines. Gathering litters, coconut husks, and trash to the palm base. Let us tell you something you do worst and must avoid. You got used to collect all trash, kitchen waste like husks and all to the palm base like this? Okay, then you most welcome black beetles and red beetles to your palm. You know why? When you pile up these around up to 1 or 1.5 feet, there is an incredible store of moisture. Next, within 3 to 15 years, adventitious roots will start its job to support red beetles to intrude the trunk and mess it up. You know what? If you pile up the base like this, the most of the roots will start growing up from a little higher. In this sense, much closer to the surface. Finally, the best of the moisture, manure, and much more nutritional components are absorbed not mostly by the roots beneath, but by the top ones. Then what happens is the palm starts growing poor, since the roots beneath fail to absorb the nutrients within the dry season or droughts. You thought trash gathering fertilized? Fine, but very carefully try to maintain mulch in shape of T-plate curving towards the base from the very budding edge onwards. Remember, it needs to be at least half feet away from the base. Also, please beware of the height of trash you collected and make sure to organize the mulch to be very even in the height all over the circle. Then, when it rains, water collects into the root base without a single wastage if trash gathering takes the shape of the tea plate. Unlimited growth of weeds. Have Mana Iluk dominated all over your coconut land? Well, then definitely we need to talk about the effect when weeds rise up as same as palms, then both reaches into competition. For what do they compete? For sunlight, moisture, and nutrition, So the weeds end up acquiring whole land, crushing the expected yielding. For that, you need to fight back by clearing or manipulating weeds. Otherwise, it becomes a cocoa land non-utilized. For an instance, 25 of entire land is supposed to be with cocoa and rest of 75 is full of grass. So that 75 is gonna be non-utilized and wasted unless you go for intercropping. Maintenance of manure circle. If you seek well-grown palm, you may use a circle 6 feet off from root base as the manure circle. When you come to a seedling, the radius depends upon its age. The biggest issue we currently notice is mismanagement of this circle. You know why? The most of the lands are out of control without proper attention given to the manure circle. Then the end would be loss. Pay your attention for the manure circle while intercropping, fertilizing, mulching, and soil conservation. Please avoid intercropping within manure circle. It supports to keep the radius of 6 feet. Also, it is very important to protect the moisture fact. For that, you may go ahead with mulching. Also, definitely make sure to renew the mulch per every 6 months' time, cause they are super homes for beetles' egg. Probable mistakes occurred in the field. Sometimes you hit and hold the knife, sickle, or whatever you have into the trunk like this. But did you ever notice the trunk was wounded? Then you wave hands to red beetles for laying eggs in fresh wounds. The trees matured less than 15 years are the most vulnerable here. The blades and field equipment hurt the trunk base and cause the injuries. And again, you open the door for red beetles. In such case, please apply tar to the wound immediately. Then only you can full stop the beetles' battle to the wound. Ignoring the right thing at right time. Avoiding to pluck nuts on time leads to reduce the harvesting of the second take. You know what? Within 11 months to almost 1 year, nuts are maturing. Therefore, it is essential to reap at least once in every month or within 42 to 45 days at most. By that way, you can boost the profit by 10%. The other most important thing is to replace non-recovering tapered cocoa trees with new seedlings. How to diagnose tapered trees? Symptoms. Number 1. The trunk portion under the bud gets thin on trees matured beyond 15 years. Number 2. Reducing nut yielding. Number 3. Also, the nuts are smaller and longer in shape than it is. Number 4. New fronds appear to be shorter and more in light green. Perhaps such a tree may remain without dying for more than 8 to 10 years. Usually, this can be cured with treatments at a very young age. Therefore, the very best we suggest you to do is to replace with a new seedling, saving your wallet as well as the time you worth the most.